Regulators who are trying to put some boundaries on this and put the things that we do into a box. And some of that is justified, some of that is not. And it was a very interesting talk. Our next speaker will carry on talking about ICOs and is also offering his perspective and his solutions from blockhive. Ladies and gentlemen, please have a round of applause for Hikaru Kusaka.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Hikaru from blockhive. We are Estonia-based blockchain incubator who basically helps the non-blockchain enterprises and traditional enterprises utilizing blockchain technology. And we've been working in Japan for the last 4 years, helping Japanese government and also Japanese bank using blockchain technology into their traditional business model. And today we're going to talk about the current issues with ICO and their solutions. So I've been working in this industry for 4 years, but I would say that this year is the year of ICO in 2017. So I want to give a short question to you guys that how many of you have participated in ICO in this year? Please raise your hand. And if you have more than 2, then please raise both your hand. Okay, quite many. Yeah. Yeah. So in fact, this year, over $3.5 billion US dollar is invested through the ICO, so it's quite big. So it has the huge potential to become a new fundraising method that fundamentally changing the way of the fundraising for companies. But on the other hand, I would say that it is the still immature fundraising method that no one has the correct answer to what is an ICO. Yeah, so people started talking about what is an ICO, what is an ICO. So I did a lot of the blog that ICO is something that changed the world or something like that. But no one has the answer. But I want to make the correct definition for today's the presentation of me. So that it's the global fundraising method that uses the cryptocurrency. And instead of issuing equities to third parties, that the startup issue native tokens, and that they can offer to those investors or speculators those native tokens. And when we talk about the native tokens, that it should be classified in big 2 categories. So one is utility and access tokens, and another one is value and security tokens. That may be the mic that ICO box guy talked before. So if you're considering the ICO, what else do you need to consider? There are a lot of things you need to consider that also Mike told me before. Actually, he said a lot of things I was going to say, so I need to cut some slides. That's good to know. So there's basically there are more things, but there are typically classified in 3: the token economy thing, then the rules and regulation, and taxation things that you need to consider when you consider ICO. So let's go in detail. So one thing, the token economy is the economy that is formed with native tokens. And the token is used for decentralized application, or users can reward it, or developers can reward it, or sometimes there are speculators are enjoying the fluctuation tokens. So, but the problem in here is that the blockchain or business model that use blockchain technology doesn't necessarily require native tokens. In Estonia, actually, we're basically we used to be in Japan, but thanks for e-residency and e-government, right now living in Estonia, and thanks for the e-government thing, and that's which is fascinating. So they also use the blockchain technology and also decentralized technology into their governance system. And the Estonian people have the EID, and also I have e-residency card. So the medical record are also recorded on a distributed ledgers in the blockchain. But they don't require any tokens at all. That might be lack of usabilities. Some project uses native tokens, but the tokens may be the cause of the lack of usabilities. So let's see, if you don't have the Bitcoin or Ethereum, for the first, you need to buy Bitcoin or Ethereum from your fiat currency. Then you need to find out where those native tokens are selling to the market. then you go to the next cryptocurrency exchange and you need to buy native tokens. And after that, you need to bring that native token back to your service and then you use it. There will be more than 7 steps that I assume, and you need to submit more than 2 KYC through those cryptocurrency exchange. That obviously is the lack of usabilities. And the next thing is laws and regulations that the startups quite ignoring with saying that the innovation. I'm not saying that, I'm not typically not the specifically not complaining to someone else, but the laws and regulation thing is also the Mike says, but the China, South Korea obviously, but also the risk of de-risking. If you try to issue the security or value token types of tokens, that your token might be delisted on the token market, or you need to talk with the FSA or MAS. Even in Japan, they started to establish the cryptocurrency law, which is basically based on the cryptocurrency exchange to be regulated. But you need to communicate with the financial regulators to be licensed or to be more regulated, so that it assumes that the more cost for an ICO, so that next year the company who needs to try to do ICO needs more take cost for regulation stuff. And another big thing is the taxation. So which is unclear right now. Let me give you one example. In Japan, if you try to do ICO and establish the company in Japan, which all of you maybe thinks that Japan is the biggest cryptocurrency market in the world, so that we need to find the investors from Japan. But then some startups actually also try to start a company in Japan. But if you start a company in Japan and start to do ICO, the money you fundraise through ICO is the taxable, which you need to pay the 40% of corporate tax. 40%. So if you successfully fundraise $10 million, then you need to pay $4 million at all. So it remains only $6 million. Do you want to start a company in Japan? So I'm actually a refugee from Japan, then I started the Estonia-based. Thanks free that Estonia offers me that the 0% corporate tax if you don't pay the dividends to the shareholders. Yeah. So I wanna. I think you guys better to start a company in Estonia, the Estonia-based. The Estonia actually also try to do the ICO-friendly country ever. So the one question is there any solution for companies that considering fundraising globally using cryptocurrency? If you have a great idea using blockchain technology and there is ICO and you want to try to do the global fundraising, but you don't want to issue any equity to third parties, then is there any way? Right now the answer is no, but we came up with the one new idea and a solution that is called Future Loan Access Token. So Future Loan Access Token is the one of the token model that's also implies the access token. It is based on the Ethereum blockchain and use the ERP20 token protocol. That basically the token type is of course considered as a utility and access token, which simply has two functions on this token model. So two simple function on the future loan access token is one is a sign or digitalized loan agreement, and another one is a transfer of loans. So if you try to issue future loan access token on your own, and you can name on it whatever you want, but you also need the digitalized loan agreement, which is legally binding. So we collaborate with also the Estonia-based blockchain startup, which is called Agrero. So Agrero is providing a legally binding smart contract on the blockchain technology. So right now for the first use case, we use the digitalized legally binding loan agreement on the blockchain. So the future loan access token is the access token you might be required when you sign a loan agreement that company offers to you. So we actually decided not even called ICO anymore, and we renamed this fundraising method that initial loan procurement. That actually we are not offering coin for first, the loan for first, so that we name for the different. And how to start your initial loan procurement using future loan access token? That is the next topic I'm going to explain. So each token, the future loan access token, you can set the loan amount equivalent of one the future loan access token. So if you said that if you have one token, you can sign a $1 of loan agreement with our company, then the token price is actually be the $1. So the next step is to set the total number of token you issue. It's same thing that you have, or some of you have done in ICO, and then the token to be issued public ILP. So if you set the maximum amount for 10 million tokens, and you issue 50%, it's going to be 5 million. So you can issue the 5 million tokens during the public ILP. Then if one token is a $1, it's going to be $5 million US. That's it. So, and the last thing is you also need to prepare the terms of loan agreement, which might be maybe the signed loan agreement on the blockchain. So let's go in detail that how it works. So we already prepared the initial loan procurement system that the potential creditor can sign a loan agreement and then lend the money to the companies, the issuance of the tokens. So the process is the potential creditors create an account, and then next they submit the contract address, where the money comes from. Then they need to submit the KYCs, that is like a selfie ID and then also the identification photos. So those are uploaded. And once it's approved, you can sign the digitalized legally binding loan agreement using this digital identification. So after you sign a loan agreement, that the QR code and the contract address where you need to send the money comes up, then you send the Ether. You send the Ether to lend the money to the companies. In exchange of the lending money, you receive future loan access token from the company. It's gonna be, in the case of our company, that it's gonna be HIVE token. We name it on it. So the creditor receive HIVE tokens in return of the lending money to the companies. So right now, creditor A has the future loan access token and also a legally binding smart contract loan agreement. So after initial loan procurement, the creditor A has the rights to, of course, sell tokens, P2P or cryptocurrency exchange if there is on the market already. So let's say the creditor sell our future loan access token directly to the friend, creditor B, then the token goes to the creditor B. So right now, at this moment, still our creditor is creditor A. He doesn't have a token at this moment, but he still has a loan agreement. The creditor B is actually a potential creditor. He's not a creditor at this moment. So he's a token holder of this future loan access token, but he's not the creditor. He's the potential creditor. So once creditor B enters into the loan agreement using future loan access token, the loan agreement, the digitalized loan agreement, like automatically goes to the creditor B. It's using smart contract technology. So those transactions are all recorded on the Ethereum blockchain. So each token, token protocol, which is recorded on the who was the latest creditors. So who was the latest creditor? Each token has the token contract. It says who is the latest creditor. If the token, the latest creditor is the creditor A, the loan agreement is transferred from creditor A to creditor B. So let's go in more detail with example. So if the token offers that the one token is a $1, and let's say creditor A has 100 future loan access token, and the creditor A sell the tokens to creditor B. So right now, creditor A receives $100, maybe $100 in Ether as a gain of sales. So creditor A don't have to wait the loan period or to get the principal back. Then creditor B right now receives 100 tokens. So right now, creditor A holding 0 tokens, but he still has a loan amount of $100. Then creditor B holding 100 tokens, but a 0 loan amount. Then after that, if creditor B sign a loan agreement using these tokens, then the $100 loan agreement is transferred to creditor A to creditor B automatically using the smart contract technology. Therefore, the creditor A holding 0 tokens and a 0 balance of loan agreement, and the creditor B has 100 tokens and $100. So this is how it works, that the future loan access token and initial loan procurement. So what makes the future loan access token and this fundraising method, initial loan procurement, change is a lot, but it's actually, and of course, the same as ICO, it's a global fundraising method that uses cryptocurrency currency. And the few great thing is that it's also regulation friendly, that actually during ILP, we take all the KYC and self-EID at all. And also if the creditor, actually potential creditor who has token, wants to sign a loan agreement, they must require KYC. So person who want to get interest from the company needs to sign a loan agreement, of course, to get a legally binding loan contract, so that he needs to submit KYC at all. So at the beginning and at the end, that they must submit KYC, so that even he or she like a trade the tokens or like selling the tokens P2P, they need to submit KYC at all. So another good thing is tax friendly. Going back to the things, if you try to do ICO in Japan, and you need to pay taxes, as I said before. But in this case, because there is the legally binding loan agreement, the money you fundraise through ILP is obviously considered as a debt. So I'm not sure there's an accountant or someone who's familiar with accounting that maybe he or she knows a lot more than me, but it's obvious that it's accounted as debt because there is a loan agreement. So money your fundraise is clearly accounted as debt. And another thing is, of course, legally binding. ICO has no legally binding thing, but this loan agreement has legally binding, so you can claim that you have the exact legally binding contract, even it's digitalized. So you can claim to the company. Of course, if the company bankrupt, it's the same thing that the traditional loan agreement, but still you have legally binding comparing to the other ICOs. And one more good thing, that's the thing which I really like, that the startup that don't require token economy, which means that the startup only use the blockchain technology, but doesn't necessarily require token economy and the native tokens. So they actually they don't have chance to fundraise globally without future loan access token and ILP. Of course, they can try to issue equity, but it's more like going back to like 90s. But they have like newly innovative fundraising method that also taking advantage of global fundraising using cryptocurrency, but they can also focusing on the more for business development. So the blockchain startups these days are pretty much taking a lot more time for ICO and marketing stuff, but basically they are a technology company, so that they should take more time for development. So me, myself, also a developer, so I don't want to talk a lot more issue about financial stuff. To be honest, I want to talk a lot more about technology issue on this stage actually. But these days, that the blockchain startups are really considering a lot more than the technology issue, but more than ICO before and at the beginning of their the journey of the business. Yeah. So ICO is, as I said before, that it's still immature, but it's really innovative idea that it might be changed the way. So I'm not saying that the ICO is disrupted by initial round procurement or ICO will be collapsed. This is the one of the way that can solve the few problem of ICO or few things that you need to consider ICO. So ICO still has the chance to the globally changing the way of fundraising. In the case of let's say the open source project, the open source project used to be it's pretty hard to monetize. That there are many developers that helps the open source, the software or development thing. But pretty hard to monetize. That it's hard to maintain the project. But right now there's ICO, so that it might be utilizable to those open source project fundraising and a monetization model. But these days at blockchain startup, obviously blockchain startup. So legal entity there is a legal entity. Legal entity basically should make money by business. In that case, it's compared to open source project, it's quite a centralized things that I think. So that in that case, they can also use ILP too. And also the non-profit project, if the non-profit project try to do ICO, because they are non-profit, so they don't have the resource that paying back to the creditors. In ILP case, the traditional business entities can also try to do ILP instead of doing the traditional loan type, because there are a lot of things to do for paperwork, for making loan agreement. If the creditors are the global creditors, then if you locate a company in Japan, there are a lot of paperwork. You need to send the paper things through DHL. So if Estonia, it's different, but if you are in Japan, then it's completely different. So, and also the profitable project, of course you can try to do ILP. Or I actually talking with some local government in Japan that we can actually use this for government project and financing, like a country bond. Like what if the country or the local government issue future loan access token as an access token, so it's not a currency. So even Estonia tried to issue S-coin, but Mr. Draghi says that you can't issue currency because you are in the EU registry. So that also the Casper says that what if it's the country bond or like a country like equity, or no, the crypto equity or crypto bond. So that it might be possible, I think, the local government or the other the private sector entity issue future loan access token to fundraise for public sectors, the business model or the ecosystem, and helping startups to invest in, or it's actually possible. Because that the future loan access token is not the currency, that it's the rights to enter into loan agreement and sign a loan contract. So there is a loan agreement still. Yeah. IOP is still also has a space to debate and discuss how we can structure this more and more with the aspect of the taxation part and laws and regulation parts. So we want to get more feedback from the expertise from the taxation part or like tax foundation or legal entities. So we want to get more feedback to you guys. So if you are interested in the future loan access token and IOP, we have also a white paper about the future loan access token and also initial procurement. And we also are ready to provide this presentation slide and another presentation slide, which more explaining in detail of future loan access token and how it works. So that please feel free to contact us, and please feel free to ask anything about the future loan access token. It actually remains 2 minutes. It's good to know. I actually breaches the time all the time for presentation, so it's good to know 2 minutes. Yeah, thanks for everyone to listening about the future loan access token and LP. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.